Coming at you live from America's podcast studio, Eric the Turf Teacher Jones. The landscape contractor and green industry platform for success. This is the Podscape, brought to you by Lmn Software.
And welcome everyone to the Podscape. On tonight's episode, we're going to dive deep into those contracts. Whether you're writing one for your landscape job, a hardscape job, or even mowing or lawn care, guys, you need to understand what is required and what is needed to make that contract legal and binding, no matter where you are or no matter what kind of work you are doing. Before we get started today, I want to give a big shout out to Lmn Software because none of this would be possible without them. I've personally been using their software in my own company, and so far it's been a complete game changer for my business. Lmn is the most comprehensive landscape business management software in the industry. From budgeting, estimating, CRM, time tracking, and so much more, it's a simple do-it tool for your landscape business and provides a platform to scale your company to the next level. And the best part about Lmn is they have a free version, which you can begin using today if you choose to. Just visit golmn.com/free to learn more and start taking advantage of the software that's helped me grow my business into a successful, sustainable, and profitable company. That's golmn.com/free. golmn.com/free.
Eric the Turf Teacher Jones. Oh, yeah! Teaching you life lessons, business strategies, and leadership.
Let's grow together.
All right, so contracts. What makes a contract a contract? But first of all, let's go ahead and define what a contract is. Contracts are legally binding agreements between two or more parties. Yes, you can have a contract with multiple parties in it. There could be a landscape contractor and an irrigation contractor sign a contract with a homeowner. You're not going to see that very, very often. You're not, and you definitely won't see it in the world of commercial construction. The general contractor is going to have a contract with the landscape contractor, the irrigation contractor, the grading contractor, the electrical contractor, and so forth. They will have an individual contract for each subcontractor in case something goes wrong with one of their subs. But yes, you can have two or more people involved in a contract. And these contracts, they are going to define the obligations of the agreement, what it is that you're supposed to do and what it is that the homeowner or the general contractor is to do. Now, I'm going to be up front with you on this. When you go to work for a general contractor, you are not going to get them to sign your contract. You are going to sign theirs. No ifs, ands, buts about it. And I know a lot of people are like, well, the heck with that. I just ain't going to work for it because people only sign my contract. I don't sign nobody else's. Well, let me tell you something. If you want to get into commercial work, if you want to work for builders, if you want to work for property managers, you will sign their contract. Your contract don't mean jack to them. Kind of like your social media following. That property manager or that commercial builder doesn't care that you have 45,000 Instagram followers. They want to see that you have $45,000 sitting in a bank that you can write a check out of for 10% down payment if they award you the job. That's if you didn't have the bid bond. And if you're awarded the job, you will give them a certified check for at least 10% to do the job, or give them a bid bond. Some contractors require that, others may not. Most of them do. But you got to make sure you want to do this type of work before you get involved with it. These contracts, they define what you have to do and what the builder has to do, or the homeowner. Now, yes, you may have to write a contract for a homeowner, and that's okay. If you're doing a big landscape job for them, they're not going to have a contract. It's two different worlds. It really is. They kind of operate differently. Residential work, you get a down payment up front, and you get some draws here throughout the project. Commercial work, you finish it, and then you get paid 60 to 90 days later, and then you get your certified check back. And then you wait for a year, possibly for retainage. And I don't say that to scare you. No, I say this to educate you and to let you know that there's plenty of work out there if you can do this. If you've got a nest egg or you've got a line of credit that you can do these jobs, they are very profitable. And I'll tell you, a lot of people say that they're not, but they are. They are. You know why they're profitable? Because I'm not bidding against everyone out there that's got a lawnmower and a trailer. Because very few people can actually get approved by these builders to actually even bid on the jobs, much less go and do them. So that's why I want you to read these contracts. I want you to know what's in them. They're also going to tell you what your payment terms are. And that's the biggest, most important thing. How long are you going to have to wait for your money? Now, they can't tell you an exact date, no. But if the GC tells you, hey, we're going to start this job in April, it usually takes us 90 days to build one of these fast food restaurants. Well, you're thinking, all right, 90 days, I'm probably going to be there the last week. You are, so you're going to be there on week 11, week 12-ish. So you can calculate, hey, they're going to have me there in probably the end of June. And then you read that contract and it states, submit payment applications on the 15th of this month to be paid on the 30th of the following month. Well, you're saying, wow, there's another 45 days. So you know when you're going to get paid. And then retainage, usually they're going to hold for a few months, probably a year. And you'll have to submit a pay application for that. But it's what it's all about. Protection. But these contracts, they state all of this when you're bidding on the job. So you know exactly what you're going into. You know everything. It's not like residential where you kind of get started, whatever, and you're wondering this and you're wondering that. Everything is laid out to the T when it comes to commercial landscape construction. It also limits the liability of the parties involved. What is it that you're responsible for? What are you not responsible for? So read them. Read the contracts and know them inside and out. Get your attorney to look at them before you sign them. Nothing wrong with that. All of you guys should have an attorney on retainer for things like this. So what makes a contract a contract? You may have reached an agreement to do a work for a customer or for a GC, but that doesn't mean you have a contract. There's 4 things that must be there on the table to make this contract legal and binding. One is offer and acceptance. You've made them an offer to do the work. They have accepted it and said, yes, we want you to do the work. Now, this is no matter if it's commercial or residential. And then there's consideration. You're doing the job for something, and that's a monetary value. You're going to get paid. They're going to write you a check. So the first 2 things, again, offer and acceptance and consideration. Third is competent parties. It must be between people of sound mind. You must know what's going on. This is to protect people that are either sick and they're not thinking clearly, or they're an elderly couple that really doesn't read it and understand it fully. They may have dementia setting in. It's the law. It protects them. And this contract not only protects you, but it protects your customer, the GC or the homeowner. And people always say, and it really drives me crazy when I hear landscapers say, I'm not signing that contract. They're going to sign mine. And I know you've heard me say this before, but guys, it doesn't work like that in every case. You're not. I mean, there are times that you're going to have to sign someone else's contract if you want to get the work. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you're belittle or you're below them. These contracts are written for purposes. Hell, I'd much rather sign someone else's contract. I mean, I really would. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to have my attorney read it. But yeah, and if my attorney reads and said, man, this looks great, you're good, I'm okay with it. I don't have to necessarily be the one in control. It's not a control thing. I'm actually here to work and to make money. And the last thing that you must have is a legal purpose, meaning that they must be possible to perform, not intended to harm anybody, and they cannot require you to do any illegal activity. So, like, example would be building a retaining wall that doesn't follow the building code. You can't sign a contract that was written by the GC that wants you to do it in a way that's illegal or without getting the proper inspections. That's what we mean by legal purpose. But those are the 4 required elements to make the contract legal. So with this offer and acceptance, it outlines the obligations of the contract again, including the work to be done and compensation. Negotiation is when you may have to sit down with the owner and come to an agreement on the price and terms. It's okay to negotiate. Remember, we talked about competitive negotiation the other day. And then the acceptance is agreeing to the offer made and is generally done by signing it. Signing that quote. So yes, you're going to present a proposal. You're going to submit it to them, and then the contract will be written. Your offer should contain certain components because if accepted, you are contractually bound to it. So here's a little checklist that you need to kind of write down and check those marks off. I love those check boxes, right? So you got to have the date, the names of the people entering the contract, the location of the project, the description of the work to be performed, what it is that you are going to do. So think about this from your point of view if you're receiving the contract from the general contractor or if you're writing the contract to give to the homeowner. Description of the work to be performed. You better read those specifications that come along with the contract documents, because if you're working for the builder, that's your description of the work. And when it comes to actually working for a homeowner, you better have everything written down there. The description of the work to be performed. And I'll give you a little horror story. One of my good friends who owns a landscape business in the neighboring city, he's actually done some work for us personally, just when I couldn't get to it. He had a contract, met with the owners, nice young couple. And the man sits there and says, look, I don't care what gets done as long as this woman right here is happy. I write the checks. She picks everything out. They do the job. It was newly landscaped pool. Had a kitchen, hardscapes, entertainment area. It's about a $100,000 job. Gets most of his money, waiting on that little bit money to close out. My good friend gets a call from the owner. This time, it was the man. The man, remember what the man said? He said, as long as this woman's happy, I'm going to write the checks. He said, I don't care. He says, man, I love the work. You did a great job, but I got one problem. I want you to come over here and look at it. My good friend says, yes, I'm headed that way. Need to get that check. We'll take care of any little thing to wrap this job up. He gets there, and he says, man, I love it, but there's one thing I can't stand about this project, and that is the pattern that the concrete pavers are laid in. He's like, well, sir, that's what your wife picked out. And he said, no. I don't like it. But he said, sir, you also told me as long as your wife's happy, you'll be happy and you're going to write the checks. I did say that. But you know what? I don't like this pattern. I want it done in this pattern. He goes, okay. All right. Let me think about this. He's like, when you pull them back up and lay them the way I want them laid, I'll write you the remainder of the check. Remainder of the project money. He goes and he calls his lawyer and he said, look, man, how long is it going to take you to do it? He said, a couple days. He said, well, my fees to take it to court and the chances you're probably going to lose, I think I would go ahead and pull those pavers up and redo it. It cost him about $8,000 to redo that. But it wasn't even worth going to court for. Remember I was talking about at the beginning of this episode that sometimes you just don't want to take it to court? It's not worth it. But the thing is, like he said, every contract that I do now, the pattern is stated in the contract. If it's basket weave, if it's run and bond, if it's herringbone, all of that is listed in the contract from now on. You also got to have a contract time, start, and completion date. When do you plan to start and when do you plan to finish? When you're working for a commercial builder and you don't finish on the completion date, guess what they start doing? They start charging you. You're going to be paying penalties because you didn't get finished. And they do not care if it rained or snowed or if there was a hurricane or whatever. They don't care. Get it done. That's why you work through the nights. That's why you're there 24/7. You want to get done. It also lists payment terms, progress payment schedule, and a final payment. Most of the time there's not progress payments, but in case there is, you're going to know when you're going to get them. There are conditions for scheduled delays. They might not even be applicable. There might just be none. They're like, you will get it done. And then a list of contract documents, including the general conditions and the specifications. And my friend, I cannot stress to you enough, you must read the specifications inside and out. And yes, they might be as thick as a phone book, but you need to find the parts that pertain to you. And there's a lot more that pertains to you than just the landscape section, especially if you are on a big project. You might be under the section erosion control. Landscape contractor responsible for erosion control. Please include in bid submittal. And you turning in a price that's just got a lump sum on it, and then they call you on day one, hey, where are you at? What do you mean? You said it takes 90 days to build this restaurant. Yeah, but you're supposed to be doing the erosion. No, I'm not. Yeah, it is. It's in the specifications. It's not in the landscape specification. You're right. It's not. It's in the erosion control site development section. Read your specifications. And you'll have your contract sum, and then you're going to have the expiration of the offer. You have the right to, when you give somebody a price, to say, yes, you have to accept it by this date. So again, consideration is usually money. Both parties are agreeing to give up something, and it's money. Competent parties, again, the parties in the agreement should have the legal capacity to enter a contract. Legal purpose, contracts must be possible to perform. A little recap going on here. Not intended to harm anyone and cannot require you to build or do anything that is illegal. Contract provisions, they must be clear and concise. Some key contract provisions would be price and payment terms, obligation of the parties, supplemental conditions, and a breach of contract. What happens if there is a breach? Your payment terms should be very specific and include who's issuing the payment. If it's coming from a construction loan, you need to know that. You need to know which bank it is, the amount of the payment, the form of the payment, and when the payment will be issued. Because trust me, when you submit pay applications, you're probably going to have to take the pay application somewhere and get notarized. You're going to have to sign lien waivers stating that all materials have been paid for. You submit it on the 15th of this month to be paid by the 30th of the following month. It's 45 days, guys. So you're thinking you're going to submit a pay application here on a Thursday afternoon and expect to get paid tomorrow? Nope. You're looking at minimum 45 days. But this is all stated in the contract that you are supposed to have read. And when you don't read, you get left behind. These progress payments, they are partial payments made after a certain phase of the work is complete. So requirements for this schedule of payments should be clearly outlined in the construction contract and will include number of payments, amount of each payment, state of progress between the payments, and the date or stage when each one is due. Still, you might get that work done, and then you submit that payment application. You're still waiting for your money. A progress payment is really progressively later. You're submitting a progress payment because you need the money. Now, guys, if it's going to take you 3 or 4 days to do the job, you can forget progress payments. We're talking about a job that might be 6 months long. The only time that we've gotten some progress payments is when we worked for a builder that was building a building there on UNCG's campus, because it was like a 2-month job. We came in and did the irrigation first and then came back and did the landscaping last. So it was kind of stretched out over 2 months. We submitted a pay application and got paid for the irrigation before we came back and actually did the landscape work, just because of everything. We had to go and do all the underground stuff. When we went back and did the landscape, that's when we set the heads and stuff. But then again, always remember about retainage. This is used by the owner to ensure completion of the project and provide protection against liens, claims, and defaults. And retainage can sometimes be paid a year later. A year later. And that ain't cool when you have to wait on that. But it's part of the process. Part of the process.
Eric the Turf Teacher Jones. Oh, yeah! Teaching you life lessons, business strategies, and leadership.
Let's grow together.
If you're needing irrigation, landscape, or pesticide credits, check out my website at turfteacher.com. Every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m., we host Turf Talk Tuesday for pesticide credits and have online courses for both irrigation and landscape contractors. There are also several opportunities to get your credits at one of our seminars that we do throughout the southeastern United States, and information on our Christmas lighting course. Check it out again at turfteacher.com. So final payment, you're wanting to get that final payment, that last draw, that last little bit of money. That's your retainage that you're wanting to get. Usually this is going to happen when all punch list items are done. You're going to have to go back, maybe adjust some irrigation heads, stake up some trees that are leaning over, just kind of brush up the property. So guys, this needs to be included in your bid price up front. You need to take responsibility for that and know that you're going to have to do it and charge them for it. It needs to be included in that price because you're going to have to go back. They're going to make you do something. They are. And so all the work that's on the punch list is going to need to be agreed upon between you and the owner or the contractor. And then you're going to have to get approvals submitted and accepted. And usually this will be like between the landscape architect or even the contractor comes back and actually does it. Because the contractor themselves is going to have a punch list with the big owner. So if you're working for the GC is going to have a punch list that's going to include your punch list on it to happen. So this final payment preparation of these documents, they need to be there once you complete the job so you can hand it right over. And these are going to be completion certificates issued by like the landscape architect, the city or whatever, inspection, if they have to come out and do a sign-off or a certificate of occupancy, or they've come up and measured the trees. A lot of municipalities make sure that you're planting the correct size plants that they require. 36-inch minimum on, shrubs that are planted, a 2-inch caliber or 1.5-inch caliber, whatever it is that they have, the guidelines set up. Your guarantees and your warranties, your affidavits that all subcontractors and project bills have been paid. Operation manuals, like of the irrigation system or landscape lighting system, will have to be turned over to them. And then final lien waivers for those who submitted preliminary notice. Final project drawings. As a irrigation contractor, you're required to submit an as-built drawing, because a lot of these commercial jobs, the landscape architect or civil engineer that's done the planting plan does not do an irrigation plan. They leave it up to the contractor to do that, and you have to provide them with a drawing stating where all the heads are, where the zone valves are, where the controller is, where the wire runs, lateral lines, main lines. So you better get pretty good at taking an existing landscape plan and getting out some colored markers, and always do main line red with a Pentel sign pen, because it's hot. It's always hot. The main lines are hot. Lateral lines are blue, indicating that, they're not always on. And then we locate our valves, and we locate our controller, and then all of our wires are in the, in the ditch with, with the pipe. So we're good to go on that. But you got to submit that for that final payment. And then any other documents that is required by the contract. Again, it will be stated in the contract when you actually bid on the job. Contractor provisions, the contractor's obligations. Number one, having the proper license. In North Carolina, you must have a North Carolina landscape contractor's license to do any work that is over $30,000. This limitation, guys, is for one customer per calendar year. So let's say you are going to work for a builder that is going to build multiple gas stations. Let's say they've got 5 planned here, and on average, you're doing $15,000. You could only do one, because if you did 2, that puts you at $30,000 per customer or client per calendar year. But this builder's going to know that North Carolina has a law. They're automatically going to require it. They're going to say, do you have a landscape contractor's license? We need to see it. Or they'll tell you up front in the bid documents, don't even bid on it if you don't have it. Well, that ain't right, Eric. I ain't got my license, but I want to do the work. Go ahead and submit a bid. Trust me and see what happens. There will be letters sent. There will be knocks on the door. You will be investigated by the licensing board for practicing landscape contracting without a license. Just go get them. Just go get them if you're in North Carolina. Other states are different. I don't know what the laws are. But North Carolina, that's it. Other obligations that you're going to have is securing permits for the job. If you're building a retaining wall, you're going to have a building permit. If you're doing an irrigation system, you're going to have to pull permits for the backflow and everything. Or is the GC responsible for that? A lot of the times they make their plumbing contractor or their site utilities contractor go ahead and put in the backflow. You may only have to pull the irrigation permit and pull away from the backflow that's already there. We've done it both ways. I hope and pray that the backflow's already done. I don't want to deal with it. That means I've got to go back 2 or 3 more times before I'm needed there to do my landscaping and irrigation. Let the site development contractor do it. The public utilities, when they're running pipe and everything else on the ground, let them go ahead and do that. You got to order all materials and supplies and arrange it for site delivery. You got to make sure you got your stuff there. Furnish all work in compliance with the code. And then scheduling your inspections when they are due. It is up to you to call in the inspectors. Complete all work in compliance with applicable codes. Complete all work according to the plans and specifications. If that specification calls for rainbird controller or hunter heads, you better be putting them in. You better not go and get some off-the-wall stuff at one of the big box stores. It ain't going to happen. And then last but not least, a big part of your obligation is keeping the construction site clean and removing all debris when you're finished for the day. It needs to be cleaned up every single day. Owner obligations. Yes, like I said, contracts protect you as well as them. They ensure prompt approval of plans and specifications. You shouldn't be bidding on a job that ain't 100% designed out. Ensuring project meets zoning specifications, you shouldn't have to worry about that. You might as a builder sometimes, but as a landscape contractor, you're not. Making sure everybody gets paid according to the payment schedule, and then buying all the required permits, assessments, and charges required by the city or the municipality that they're working on, except for your permits that's obligated by your license and by your scope of work. They're going to be pulling the main building permit, right? You're going to be pulling the permits associated with your work. And then furnish all surveys and recording plats and a legal description of the property, and then provide access to the construction site in a timely manner. But trust me, these individuals, these companies, these property managers, these GCs, they want the work done ASAP. The faster they get it done, the faster they can get paid. So what happens if there is a breach of a contract? Well, this occurs when someone refuses to perform the contract or performs an act prohibited by the contract. You went ahead and built that retaining wall without pulling a permit. That's a breach of contract. Or one party prevents the other party from performing its obligations. So there's two types. Material breach, which is a serious violation of the contract, and this can have liquidated or stated damages. An immaterial or a partial breach, it's a less serious violation that doesn't usually result in termination of the contract. So it could be like a mistake or something. You might get a little slap on the wrist, but you're not going to be drug into court. Boilerplate provisions. These are clauses that are usually at the end of a contract. It really main purpose is to protect the business in the event of a lawsuit. You just kind of have to read them to understand what they are. I've never really had any experience with them because we've always done our job and we've always worked for people that's kept their end of the bargain up. Like I said, don't have much experience with that, but they are there just to protect the business when there is a lawsuit. There are also provisions added to the contract that limit risk. One would be force majeure, address the acts of God and other external events such as war or labor strikes. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know when people are going to start rioting and they may come and burn down a part of the project that's been done. That happens. Hurricanes happen. Tornadoes happen. Acts of God always happen. Indemnification. This absolves or identifies the indemnified party from any payment or losses and damages incurred by a third party. So that might be like a riot. And this one right here, this is kind of important, especially for us being landscape or irrigation contractors. What about site conditions that are kind of off the wall? Well, this gives you extra money in case there are extra costs due to unexpected site conditions. And one might be you've proposed to do the irrigation and got the contract for it, but you dig down 6 inches and it's solid bedrock. Yes, you should have made a site visit and asked to see copies of soil tests and things of that nature, but at least there probably is a provision in there to help you do it. We had an instance one time where, as most of you know, we're home builders too. We run full service landscape contracting business, and then we'll build 2 or 3 houses a year. Got into that back in 2002, and I like building homes. I do. But we were building a house in an area called High Point, Thomasville area here in North Carolina. And we purchased a lot, corner lot, beautiful lot, had a beautiful floor plan, went to start digging out for the crawl space. And I should have put the house on a basement, but what it was, it's a crawl space. It was a finished crawl space that does have a walkout door. But we went to dig, and water started spewing everywhere. Wasn't from a main water line or anything. It was from an underground stream that we had hit. Well, we purchased a lot from the builder, and in the contract it says that these lots were ready to build on. When we started digging out the crawl space, guess what? We realized this lot was not ready to build on. There was a provision in the contract that the developer had to fix the lot. Now, luckily, I'd bought the lot across the street, too, which was a big mound, hilly dirt. They were like, are you building on top of the hill, or are you wanting to flatten it? Well, I was like, I'd like to bring it down to street level like all the other houses. They're like, good, we can use that dirt. And so they spent the next 2 weeks in there, piping off, diverting the underground stream, and then filling it back in with gravel, tamping it, and then getting that dirt across the lot. But we were protected. They didn't say, sorry, man, you bought the lot, it's on you. So always read those and make sure that they are in there for you. And then warranties and guarantees. This defines your responsibility for the repair of defects to the construction project after completion of work. Delays and extensions of time provides contingency in the case of the completion deadline is not met. So they may be in there or they may not be there. And then I like this term, schedule acceleration, provides assignment of cost incurred to complete a project ahead of schedule. Eric, we need to get this job done. We need you here tomorrow. Yes, we have schedule acceleration in the contract. If you can get here and get it done, there is a nice little bonus for you. And we'll pay the extra cost to get the stuff done. I like it when that happens. I like it. And then the last clause that we may or may not have to deal with is artistic changes clause. Addresses changes made by the architect or landscape architect during the course of the project for artistic or creative purposes. Yes, people will want to change their mind. The only time I think this will affect us is if we see an owner decide to change out landscape lighting fixtures, or they decide to change out like street trees or something like that that's on a big real estate development property. So just one of those things. So, guys, I am going to go ahead and wrap up this show for contracts. We will discuss contracts again in the next episode. So thank you so much. And you know what? I will see you in the next lecture. For more landscape business expert advice, check out golmn.com/blog. And once again, a massive shout out to Lmn Software for sponsoring this podcast and making it all happen. Lmn is the most comprehensive landscape business management software in the industry. From budgeting, estimating, customer relationship management, time tracking, and so much more, it's the true do-it-all tool for your landscape business and provides a platform to scale your company to the next level. And the best part about LMN is that they have a free version which you can use today if you choose to. Just visit golmn.com/free to learn more and start taking advantage of the software that's helped me grow my business into a successful, sustainable, and profitable company. That's golmn.com/free. And thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you in the next lecture. And that wraps up this episode of the Podscape. Thank you so much for joining us here, guys. I love each and every one of you. Life lessons and landscape lectures brought to you by the Turf Teacher and Lmn Software. We'll see you in the next episode. Turf Teacher out.